Welcome, dear viewers, to our new episode of The Good Home. We're happy to have you watching us today. As you know, our program covers topics that you care about and your family cares about, and we like to share tips and information on how to make your life easier and better. Dr. Muhammad, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I'm welcoming our dear viewers to the new episode of A Good Home. And you are holding a book, Dana. What is that?
Yes. So actually, today's episode is all about this book.
Okay,
it's
what is that?
It's a very interesting book. It's called Navigating Social Identity, a young adult story of time.
Okay.
It's by Dr. Juliet Dinka and Aya Abdelhadi.
Interesting.
So this book talks about socialization and the self-identity of young adults.
Okay.
And all the different factors that helps create this identity.
What I do hear about it, and actually this is a very interesting thing or angle about this book, is based on research.
Yes.
And this is actually a good thing to do,
Very
right?
good, yeah.
Yeah, because Dana, it's hard for a general population to read a research article, but to simplify it.
They actually created a story out
This
of
is
it, which is great.
actually
Yeah.
very interesting, which is a story and a research base.
So they used storytelling to capture the attention of the young adults and parents. It's more fun for me as a parent to read it in a story form rather than going through research.
Okay.
And it's all backed up by academic research, which is great.
The topic is really unique as well as interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it talks about the role of media in shaping the identity, and they focus a lot on the male versus female and how the society and culture affects each.
And I
how
think they
relate.
targeted a youth, or
youth and young adults.
which is they have a target population,
Yeah.
right?
It's a very targeted, but also it's a big part of our society, because
Yes.
apparently like 80%, 70 to 80%
Exactly,
is
here in
within this
Kuwait, yeah.
age range in
Yes.
Kuwait. So it's very good research.
Interesting.
And it's good to see research done properly, because we don't have money access to research in Kuwait.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So let's begin.
Yeah. So to know more about this book and all the topics in it, we are glad to welcome Dr. Juliet Dinka, licensed clinical psychologist, together with Aya Abdelhadi, communication and professional independent researcher, right after watching this report. So stay with us.
The relationship between media and youth has grown increasingly complex in recent years. Media refers to various forms of communication, such as television, movies, social media, and advertising, which can influence the values, attitudes, and beliefs of young people. This could play a significant role in shaping young people's self-identity. The impact of media on youth self-identity can be positive or negative, depending on the messages conveyed. Media can be a powerful tool for promoting positive self-identity among young people by providing them with representation and positive role models. For instance, media can help young people feel more confident and proud of their unique identity. On the other hand, media can also perpetuate unrealistic and narrow standards, leading to image issues and low self-esteem among young people. However, social media can also create pressure to conform to certain norms or trends, which can be detrimental to young people's self-identity development. It is important for young adults to be mindful of how media affects their self-image and pay attention to their feelings after watching a movie, TV show, or scrolling through social media.
And welcome back, dear viewers, with our special guest, Dr. Juliet Denka. She's a licensed clinical psychologist, as well as Aya Abdelhadi. She is a communication, a professional, and independent researcher. We are glad to have you to talk about your distinguished book that you just published.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Welcome, Dr. Juliet, and welcome, Aya. We're looking forward to learn more about this book. My first question is for you, Dr. Juliet. Tell us a little bit about yourself first, and what brought you two together to write this great book?
Well, I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and a professor at AUK, I was, and now I'm just a researcher with them. So I have been publishing for a long time. So we've started doing a lot of our research since 2011, I think.
Yes, correct.
And then, so we've published a lot of articles.
Okay.
So during COVID, we were doing some other research on resilience and how people, young adults, are really coping with this pandemic. And we came up with this idea that to accumulate all the research, because we could see that there was something common about all the things we've done together.
Nice.
And then we put it together and we made it into a story that will, hope everybody will like it. Just trying to decide and kind of explain what makes young adults navigate their identity, what's the factors, things like that.
So you just said you have started in 2011 together
Yeah.
doing the research. Was about a long time
Yes.
or a long period. That probably should be a very hard work.
We've
Yes.
been working together for that long, yes, and
Yeah.
that's why working together on this book has been a great pleasure with Dr. Juliet.
This is very
So we get to work together on different projects, and we were able to work on these researches as well.
Perfect. So what are the reason or could be a factor that could lead you to publish this book?
Well, something during our time when working on these different researches, we've come across that various different topics, of course, in terms of the young adults, and we've come to realize that for the young adults to be able to navigate their social identity, there is a lot that has to do with their gender identity. And throughout our research, we've come to discover 3 key components that actually do interpret differently for each gender, which are social learning, media evolution and media consumption, and coping mechanism.
Okay.
And it was during our time when we were working on our resilience paper during the time of COVID that we have come to realize that a lot of the young adults are actually resilient. And once we were finished with this research that we were working on, we actually thought of why not start on the actual book content and bring up the story to life.
Perfect. That's very good.
I think it was the idea that we, a lot of times being a psychologist, so a lot of times either parents or, and I, of course, my students, constantly, you could see that some of them have a difficult time navigating who they are as people,
Yeah.
and some people just have a better and a clearer path.
Okay.
So when I was discussing that with Aya and then looking at the research we've done before, and there are a lot of articles you'll see in the book, there are a lot of accumulation of different research that kind of points to the same way. So, Aya and I, we talked about it and maybe we need to write a book that kind of highlights what these young adults need. And they're youth in Kuwait and trying to figure out who they are. And it does have a lot to do with their gender and the gender identity and how do they navigate if they're males or females. It makes a difference. In our research, it made a difference.
So why did you choose the youth in particular? And what is the definition for youth? In which age? What's the ages for youth?
If I may say, so with young adults, definitely in Kuwait, they comprise around 70% of the population. And studying the youth or examining the youth has a lot of potential in terms of what we can learn in terms of psychological and in terms of communication, especially with the rise of technological advancements, for example, social media. So it's given us a lot of exposure in terms of what we can actually look into. And in terms of the definition of what young adults are, so part of our book, we are looking at respondents within the age of 18 to 34. And this is where most of the identity formation is actually taking place.
Happening then. So how are you collecting this information? How are you getting the data? What research are you doing to collect it?
So most of the research we did is surveys, and they were collected from students. So either AUK, for example, or GUST, or any of the private universities, or even anybody actually that was willing to take these surveys. So there are different surveys for different issues. So if we wanted to, for example, wanted to evaluate and measure their media consumption, that we would do a survey that kind of dictate, kind of like would help us understand how much media and what does that mean, and who identifies with who. So it depends on, but mostly for your question is like we do surveys and for the population that we're studying, and from there we calculated with, there's a program called SPSS, and the idea is that we try to find data that kind of like, and we always, most all of our research, we always are interested in gender. I'm very interested in gender, to be honest, because I do feel like although there are a lot of things that males and females can be equal to, there's also a lot of differences in the way we process information in our brain. So
especially with the exposure to what's
Exactly.
happening worldwide in terms of the fluidity between the genders.
That's
it's
true.
good for us to understand
right.
where we stand with gender in our society.
Right. I mean, it's like, you know, a lot of times, you know, parents are like, well, I had a boy and I had a girl. Why is it difficult for the boy, you know?
Yeah.
And the idea is that because we process information different, as the three factors that I had just talked about, I mean, think about our social relation, the way you and I, as a female, we relate to our community, to a collectivist society. The way we relate to friends are very different from the way you relate to your friends or to your family. The way we express emotions is welcomed, yours isn't welcome. So, and also think about it, the way we express depression, mental illnesses is very different from the way you would express it.
Exactly.
So I feel like all of that is very, very important that we need to be able to explain that in order for us to understand why our young, you know, our young youth or our youth kind of like not having, some of them really do it very well and they know who they are and they navigate, and some aren't navigating well. So that was the purpose, to be honest.
Perfect. It's really interesting and unique aspect of this book is it's based on research. And this is actually, as an associate professor, that research is the base. And I would like to know how this idea came to your mind, is to, because if I'm gonna go and try to find a piece of information, I have to Google it and try to really find the research, not to just hear it from anybody or anyone could say anything in Google, but to find it in the research and document it and doing all the procedure for research is really good. So why did you choose a research for this to be based on your book?
You mean research-based?
Exactly.
So a lot of the content actually is methodological, so it's based on statistics.
Right.
But also what we wanted to portray in the book is that we want to tell a story, to be able to engage with the younger generation, with the young adults.
Yeah.
So it's more of a storytelling approach, which is also backed up with these facts and research. And maybe Juliette can add here in terms of the methodological that is used. So a lot of the questionnaires, in addition to the surveys, the content analysis. I remember a lot of the nights that we used to analyze some content, create themes, to be able to create these certain facts and then come up with actual statements that we can clearly state in our research, and actually most of the published articles that are included as well.
Perfect.
Right, and I think we wanted two components. We didn't want it to be just a book, since I'm a professor.
Yes.
I didn't want it just to be a research book. But at the same time, I'm very, very big on, a biography, or people can read it, like a parent can read this.
Yes.
Right?
Want them to
The
relate
youth
to it.
themselves, they
Yes.
can read this.
Yeah.
'cause they're-
Everybody could read it.
Everyone
Yeah.
could read it, but at the same time, I mean, as we're academics, so we can't just put anything out there
Exactly.
and make conclusions. So the
Exactly.
conclusions we have made, it's much more, it's subjective, it's not our opinion,
Exactly.
it's what we found and the themes that we found throughout our research. And it kind of like, in your question, is like what you were trying to say, is that, people read stuff, and if it's not factual and
Scientific
data,
Yeah.
people don't believe you,
Yeah.
right? And that's what we wanted. We didn't want to publish anything that says, oh, this is just their opinion. The other thing why we wanted to do this in Kuwait, as you might know because you're academic, is that there is not a lot of research done in Kuwait, to be
No,
honest.
it's
I mean, every
very-
time we do research, everything we find is always in the US. We Google, can we find identity in Kuwait, is very rare. So I feel like more researchers, that are Kuwaiti researchers or researchers in Kuwait, they should be publishing because there are people out in the West making conclusion about us.
That's
Correct.
And they shouldn't be making conclusion about us. We should be making our own conclusion.
As a digital strategist myself and 15 years of working with analysis of data, it's the hardest thing to find data in Kuwait. It's hard in the Middle East in general, but specifically Kuwait. Like you'd find like Saudi Arabia or other countries, but not enough is done here. So well done on conducting your own data. That's amazing, and I'm glad that you're doing this because you're backing up your book with enough data and scientific research, and it gives it more authenticity and it's more believable. So if I'm reading it, I'm drawn to the story, but I also know that someone like yourself backed it up with the data that's needed. So that's great.
Very true, and we hope that people will really like it, and we hope more and more people. Like if you notice that a lot of the research we have done, we've also included my students at AUK.
Perfect.
I've included my colleagues, because I feel like the more people can be engaging, you know, it takes a village. And I think the more we get people engaged in research here in Kuwait, the more we could be out talking about what happens here instead of, you know, having someone, you know, making things that are not really true. Or I feel like a lot of times we're labeled, oh, Kuwait, aren't women like this? Aren't we all repressed? Like, you know, even in the US, it's like people ask me these questions. I was like, no, that's not true.
It also bugs the teens, like it bugs the young adults.
Yeah, of course.
Like I know from my daughter, she doesn't like all the misconceptions. Now
Yeah,
she's
of
studying in
course.
Canada. She doesn't like what people think about what kids are like here, you know? So it's
That's
good
true.
exposure
It
for
is.
abroad as well.
That's true. Because my daughter and my son are going to school there, and the same thing.
Yeah.
It really annoys them because my daughter will come and say, "Why do they say that about us? Why are they every time they hear Kuwait, they're making this assumption that, you know, we're all beaten and we're all this?" It's true. So
This is very interesting. We have more to talk about it, but however, we have a really short break, and we're going to continue our conversation about your unique book. So, dear viewers, we have a short break and continue our episode. So please stay tuned.
Welcome back, dear viewers. We have with us Dr. Juliet and Aya today talking to us about their very interesting book targeting teens or young adults. And we have a lot of questions. We started before the break and we're going to continue our topic. So we were talking about how this book can change the view of the international view of the teens in Kuwait or of young adults in Kuwait. So tell us more about that.
Well, I mean, you know, as we were saying earlier, is like there's a lot of labels. So when someone says that you're from Kuwait or someone says you're from the Middle East, I think the West still have this concept that we, you know, our identity is pushed on us, or that we are very restricted, or there's like certain cultural demand placed on us, when actually we are a collectivist society, and there's a lot that has, you know, that can determine who we are, right? So it's not that I'm beaten at home and, you know, I'm suppressed, and
Not
so
everything
I feel
is forced on me.
exactly.
I have the right to pick and choose.
And I think the way we wanted to market it internationally, I mean, when somebody was asking us, should we translate it? And I think we will translate it in Arabic, but I think the main focus is that we do want people to read it internationally, West. We want them to be able to understand us. The main language we wanted to use is English. So if a professor wants to teach a segment of it, or if a mom even if mom that's Arab but lives in the US and wants to read it. So I think the international market is suitable because we want to bring awareness. And that's the point of this whole research, to be honest.
Yeah,
And a lot of the young adults also
Yeah.
are very well spoken or like to speak in
Absolutely.
English and
Yes.
will relate to it
It's
more
true.
this way.
Correct. And just to add, so something that when we were working on our resilience paper and we were doing a lot of research, we came to know that there is very limited research on Kuwait, and especially in English, since we were publishing the actual article in English. And we thought, why not create this content and make it available for people to come to know more about Kuwait, to first raise this awareness, and also to create further content that would also entice other researchers to pick up the conversation.
Exactly.
And also, as we mentioned, so the style and of the writing of the book, it's more of a storytelling.
Exactly.
So also people would be, it's not like this is the question and this is the answer for you and this is how you construct your identity. It's more of a journey for them to actually explore and see how it relates to themselves as well.
Yes.
So this is also something that we've tried to hopefully convey in the pages
It's a
of the
good book to read if
Yeah.
you're thinking about moving to Kuwait also.
Yeah, it's
Now
true.
that I'm thinking
Very
about
true.
it, it's
Yeah.
something it's nice to read before you
Especially
come.
if if you're moving and you have teenagers,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Actu-
Don't know what to
actually,
expect.
I have published many research, and barely people read my research.
Yeah.
Now it came to my mind is to really do the same thing, is to really publish a book,
Right.
and try to make it for the general population.
Mhm.
That this research that I'm doing could really expose to many people as much as I do. But while I'm thinking of to do this publishing, do you face any problem or issue during this publishing this book?
So on publishing process, so we thought why not
Yeah.
take the
Yeah,
route
should-
Another
to,
year.
Now,
to-
should-
I'm just trying to remember.
Should I take the steps or should I go back
Absolutely.
here?
So there was a lot of hesitance at the time, but we thought, why not? We know what's the content that we have. We trust what we've put together, and we know that it's going to hopefully leave an impact. And we thought, why not take the route to self-publishing? And through that process itself, we were able to relook our content, create more themes, develop it, and fine-tune it so that we're able to reach the target that we're looking to, and also get it published right in time. So I think it took us around 6 months for the complete publishing of the book.
Very interesting.
And we had great content that was just edited, reviewed, even working on the book design, working on the marketing strategy
It
for it. So a
is.
lot of the work is self-effort, and I
Perfect.
think that adds to the how genuine the book content is, and it's all of the work that we've been doing for the past 10 years together.
What are some of the issues that youth face? Like, what have you found through your research? What are some of the issues or challenges that they go through? And were you able to find some solutions that you shared with us through the book?
I think I just maybe want to highlight on one thing, which is gender differences. And gender differences has been a great aspect of how the social identity is constructed. And as I mentioned earlier, we had the 3 main components of the social identity, such as social learning, media consumption, and the coping mechanism. Maybe, Juliette, you want to start with the
Coping
social
mechanism,
learning and
okay.
coping mechanism.
Right.
Okay.
as well.
So what we wanted to do is we wanted to be able to, obviously there's a lot of research on identity and navigating. So what we wanted to do is to be able to highlight what we think from our research is very important when young adults are trying to navigate who they are, right? And so in our research, we found that really gender plays a big role. Like if you're a male, female, what is the role? How do you play it? But we also noticed that the social relationships, like if it's a collectivist society, what does that mean with your relationship with other people? How are the norms of the society affect you? Like I said, it affects people, males differently from females in the collectivist society. Coping mechanism was more about resiliency. Like we always have this idea that if you come from a prominent society where kids are kind of spoiled or they have money, they're not going to be able to deal with crisis, which is not true, because we all have this psychological immune system. We're born with it, and it's like, the physiological system to fight the flu. We have a system that fights crisis. And it was impressive for me and Aya when we were doing research how these young adults here, some volunteered, some had a, download apps, some people they navigated this crisis so
proud of
well.
how they have.
I was impressed because you have this idea, the society pampers young kids are not responsible, but when it comes to really having a crisis, they were responsible.
During pandemic,
my
even more than
students were
adults.
teaching me, Doc, you do this, you go here, you do this. I was like,
Actually,
wow.
Interesting.
mask on,
They
so
quickly navigated, they quickly found a way to exercise, they quickly found a way to help the elderly, they quickly managed how to volunteer. I was like, they're not even
New
that
hobbies.
excited when I give them homework, nevertheless. So this all showed us, that they do have this sense of coping mechanism. They do have this that got them to be able to
Responsibility.
create. Exactly. And also the idea of social media. I mean, we cannot dismiss it.
Absolutely.
Yes, there
Where
are.
they live.
I mean, this is the way they
Very
live. And
important.
actually, maybe it's not a bad idea that they live on social media. Obviously, the consumption of it can be decreased. But I do feel like a lot of the things that we discovered has a lot to do with their media evolution and how they watch TV and what kind of things are they watching and what kind of things are they
We need
TikToking.
to evolve with them and
Yeah.
give them content through their channels.
Exactly.
what they
And I
want.
like that you mentioned evolve, because identity, it's always evolving. And this is how identity is constructed, because there is always something that will influence it. How much you allow of that influence, this is what you get to read more about in our book, especially with the differences between male and female.
This will leave the order viewers to really purchase this book and try to read it and to explore this
It's
journey.
very interesting. You gave us a lot of information that makes us and everyone watching want to read for sure.
We'll enjoy.
We would like to thank you so much for your time, as well as for your valuable information, as well as your effort to publish this book.
Thank you.
Pleasure
Thank you,
being
Dr.
here.
Juliet.
Thank
Aya,
you.
it's been a pleasure meeting you and learning more about your book.
Thank you. And thank you
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Pleasure
This is a
is
pleasure.
ours.
So, dear viewers, we're going to continue our episode. However, we have a short break and we will be back, so please stay tuned. And we are back, dear viewers, and we have a really nice report for you. So let's watch it together and we will be back. So please stay tuned.
Hello, my name is Selin Hafızoğlu. I am from Turkey. I have been doing coach for 3 years. I came here for 1 year ago. And also I was a national figure skater in Turkey. So I came here to teach what I know. During the competition seasons, we are working hard. We are spending times, we are spending hours. We are doing off-ice and we are sometimes working twice a day to get ready for the competitions. So we are so excited. Also, I'm proud of our skaters in Kuwait. I believe that they will come back with good results from Russia.
Hi, my name is Julian Mullah and I'm a national figure skater. I started skating for around 2 years now. I've been into 2 competitions so far. One in Kuwait Nationals in 2021, which I won a gold medal in, and one in Skate Emirates in 2022, which I also won a gold medal in. I chose figure skating because I've tried many sports and I've only had passion for this skate only. Every time I get on the ice, all my problems go away and I just feel like I'm a different person. I'm doing my difficult spins and I'm trying to do them and accomplish them. I'm trying to do my axle and my edges and my camel to broken leg and all my difficult spins that are actually doing it. For jumping, I have to have a full rotation on ice and I have to have my legs crossed and exit properly. And for my spin, I have to balance and I have to work on it off ice to get it on ice. And I slowly have to balance and balance until I get it right. Choreography is where my coach does it. It depends on the dance. She makes the dance look alive and it makes the dance look way more better. And the dresses, it all depends on the music, either classic or a stronger chorus. It depends on the music and the dresses and all that. And my edges are where I go inside and outside on ice using my skate and doing a hard turn.
My name is Sama. I am 14 years old and I have competed in 4 competitions, 2 in Abu Dhabi, 1 in Kuwait and 1 in Dubai. In the first competition I competed in, I won 4 gold medals and 1 silver. And in the second one, I won 2 gold, 2 silver, and 1 bronze. And in the Kuwait Nationals competition, I won 1 gold. And in the Dubai competition, I won 1 silver. In February, I'm going to Russia for a competition. And I don't mind if I lose. I just want to go and do my best and have fun. I just want to tell them to keep going on the things that they love, that they can accomplish whatever they want to if they keep trying.
I think everyone has a own potential, so we are here to teach them and improve them. So if they love figure skate and then if they spending hours, they can improve themselves, and when they deserve it, we are choosing them and we are preparing for the competition specifically.
Welcome back, dear viewers. Unfortunately, we're reaching the end of our show. We have enjoyed our topic today.
Exactly.
This is, Navigating Social Identity was a really interesting book to learn about.
Yes, and I like it's a story. They actually the authors actually put their research into a book, and actually it's very interesting to read a story as well as based on the research.
You know, it's a good interview when you end it with more questions, you want to learn more. So it's like a good teaser to make you want to read the books. I think us and everyone who's watching want to read the book and learn more now.
Yes, actually I've been through it really quickly. It seems really interesting and well written. However, I will leave it that you read it all and you teach me what you think about
my
it.
take on it, for sure. And I'll make my daughter read it as well. Because the nice thing about this book is that it affects the way the society or the international countries view our society.
Totally agree.
Because there's lots of misconception about teens in Kuwait or growing up in Kuwait. So it's nice to shed the light on the reality of how it's like to grow up in Kuwait.
And the author put a lot of effort as well as time to really publish this.
And it gives them a lot of gives a lot of credit to young adults and their resilience and their ability to handle any pressure that you throw on them, which is amazing.
Totally agree with you, Dan.
So dear viewers, we hope you enjoyed our episode today. We'll be looking forward to see you next week. So stay safe, stay happy, and see you next week.
We're going to see you next week with different topics. So please take care of each other and goodbye.